They say every alpha has one weakness, something the moon goddess uses to remind them that even the strongest hearts can break. For Alpha Kael, that weakness had a name. Arya. The woman he buried in his past. The woman fate refused to let him forget. The forest slept beneath a silver sky, the air heavy with the scent of rain and pine. Kael stood at the edge of the cliff, his silhouette framed by the glowing moon. From here, he could see the entire valley, his territory, his pack, his world. And yet, for all his power, for all his victories, his heart still ached for something he could never name. The wind brushed past him, carrying a scent so faint, so hauntingly familiar, it froze his blood. Lavender, wild, untamed. His wolf stirred instantly, a deep growl rumbling inside his chest. She's here. Kael's pulse quickened. It couldn't be. She was gone. Arya, the healer who once saved his life, had vanished years ago when the war ended. He'd searched for her until the mountains grew silent, until hope itself became a wound. But now that same scent wrapped around him like a ghost. Down below, the Silverfang pack celebrated the full moon. Laughter echoed, drums thundered, and firelight danced across faces full of pride and loyalty. At the center of it all stood Lyra, his Luna, beautiful, confident, the perfect image of what an alpha's mate should be. Kael should have been by her side, smiling, leading, pretending. But something deeper, wilder, was pulling him away, a feeling he thought had died long ago. He turned to leave, but stopped dead in his tracks, because from the shadows between the trees, someone was watching him. A figure stepped forward, slow and silent, cloaked in rain and moonlight. Her hood fell, and Kael's world stopped moving. Storm-gray eyes, soft lips, that same scar on her wrist, the one he'd kissed before she disappeared. Arya, his voice cracked, low and disbelieving. She looked up at him, her eyes glistening with something between relief and regret. "It's been a long time," she whispered. "Too long." He took a step forward, his instincts screaming mine with every heartbeat. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his tone rough but trembling. Arya's lips curved into a sad, knowing smile. "The moon sent me back," she said softly. "But not for you, Kael, not this time." And, before he could ask what she meant, a howl cut through the night, low, sharp, the warning. Kael turned toward the sound, but when he looked back, Arya was gone. Only her scent lingered, fading into the rain. The forest woke slowly after the storm, the scent of wet pine filling the air, and the sound of life returning to the land. But inside Alpha Kael's heart, there was only silence. He hadn't slept, he couldn't. All night, he replayed the moment he saw her. Arya, the woman he thought he'd lost to time and war. Her voice still echoed in his mind. "The moon sent me back, but not for you." What did she mean? The first rays of sunlight spilled through the window of Kael's chamber. He stood shirtless by the mirror, his reflection sharp, his eyes darker than usual. The mark of the alpha, glowing faintly beneath his skin, pulsed faster than it should. His wolf was restless. "Find her," it whispered. "Find her before it's too late." A knock at the door broke the silence. "Come in," Kael said, voice low. Lyra entered, graceful as always, wrapped in a flowing white robe that shimmered like moonlight. She smiled softly. "You disappeared during the feast last night." He turned away, hiding the storm in his eyes. "I needed air." Her gaze lingered on him for a moment too long. "You've been distant lately," she said quietly. "Even your wolf feels different." Kael didn't answer. He didn't need to. Lyra had always been perceptive, perhaps too perceptive. By noon, whispers spread across the pack. The healer had returned, the same one who vanished years ago, the one who once saved the Alpha's life. Kael tried to ignore. He had meetings, patrols, responsibilities, anything to keep his mind busy. But fate has a way of forcing what we try hardest to avoid. When he reached the infirmary, she was there. Arya. She stood by the window, her fingers tracing the herb she'd planted long ago. Her cloak was gone, replaced by a simple linen dress that made her look almost fragile. Almost, when she turned to him, her eyes weren't soft anymore. They were steady, unshaken. "Alpha," she greeted, voice calmed and no warmth. No fear. Just control. Why are you here, Arya? He asked. You said the moon sent you, but why? She hesitated, only for a heartbeat. Then she looked up, and the truth in her eyes made his chest tighten. I came because your pack is in danger, she said quietly. There's a sickness spreading through your wolves, one that isn't of this world. Kael froze, and no one had mentioned any sickness, and no reports. No warnings. How do you know this? He demanded. Arya's lips trembled slightly. Because I've seen it before, she whispered. It destroyed my pack. For a moment, Kael said nothing. The air between them was heavy, thick with unspoken memories and the echo of something dangerous returning. But before he could speak again, the door burst open, a warrior stumbled in, clutching his arm, veins glowing faintly beneath his skin. Alpha, he gasped, his voice breaking. Something's wrong with the Western Patrol. Kael's wolf surged forward instantly. What happened? The warrior's eyes rolled back, his body convulsing as he fell to the floor. His skin burned cold, and a strange black smoke coiled from his mouth like mist. Arya dropped to her knees beside him, her palms glowing with faint silver light. Get back, she warned. It's already spreading. Kael's heart pounded. What is that? Arya looked up at him, and for the first time since she returned, her voice trembled. It's not an illness, she whispered. It's a curse. And as the warrior's eyes turned completely black, Kael finally understood what her return truly meant. She wasn't just here to heal the pack, she was here to save it, or bury. Darkness fell early that night, thick and restless, like the forest itself was holding its breath, and no one in the Silverfang pack slept. The sickness had spread, and fear was spreading faster. Arya's hands moved swiftly, her palms glowing silver as she pressed them over the warrior's chest. The black veins beneath his skin pulsed like something alive, twisting, fighting, resisting her magic. Hold him down, she ordered. Kael did as she said, his strength keeping the wolf from convulsing. But when Arya's power flared brighter, his wolf growled from deep within, recognizing something it shouldn't. The scent, the energy, the mark on her wrist. It wasn't just healer's magic. It was Luna magic. He gritted his teeth. Arya, what are you hiding from me? She didn't look up. Her voice was barely a whisper. Not everything I became after I left was by choice. The light in her hands flickered, then faded. The warrior went still. His breathing steadied, but the dark veins remained. He'll live, she said softly, but not for long. Kael stood over the sleeping warrior, jaw tight, mind racing. Lyra's words from earlier echoed through his head. You've been distant lately. Even your wolf feels different. And now, seeing Arya here, her magic glowing like moonfire, he understood why. Something ancient was binding them again, something stronger than the bond he shared with his Luna. He took a step toward her. Tell me what happened to you after the war. Arya's eyes lifted, stormy, guarded. I died, she said simply. Or, at least, a part of me did. Kael froze. She turned away, voice trembling. When my pack fell, I begged the moon goddess to save them. She didn't. Instead, she marked me. Said my soul would wander until I found the alpha meant to stop the darkness she once created. Kael's breath caught. The moon goddess created this curse? Arya nodded slowly. And you, Kael, are the alpha she sent to end it. The door opened behind them. Lyra stepped in, her eyes sharp and cold as ice. I thought I might find you here, she said. Her gaze moved from Kael to Arya, lingering just long enough to feel like a blade. So this is the healer everyone's whispering about. Kael straightened. Lyra, this isn't. But she cut him off. A private reunion? No, I can see that. Her lips curved into a brittle smile. You forget, Kael, the bond between Alpha and Luna lets me feel everything you feel. The room went still. Arya stepped back, eyes lowering. I didn't mean. Lyra's voice softened dangerously. Didn't mean to what? Return from the dead and steal what isn't yours. Kael's wolf growled, the sound low and protective. Enough. But the damage was done. Lyra turned sharply, her expression unreadable. Fix your pack, Alpha. And fix whatever this is before it destroys everything. She left the room, the echo of her heels sharp against the stone. The rain had stopped. The moon hung low, red-tinted and heavy. Kael followed the faint sound of footsteps, areas, leading deep into the trees. He found her standing by the moon well again, staring at her reflection in the water. Silver light shimmered on her skin. She knows, Arya whispered without turning. I don't care, Kael said, stepping closer. But I need the truth. Why now? Why return only when the pack started dying? She looked up at him, eyes filled with both sorrow and fear. Because the curse follows me, she said softly. It always has. Kael's stomach turned cold. What are you saying? Arya hesitated, then pressed his hand against her heart. A faint black mark pulsed beneath her skin, shaped like a crescent moon. It began the night I left you, she whispered. And it's growing stronger. The forest went deathly quiet, then a scream. A wolf's cry echoed through the night, raw and terrified. Kael's head snapped toward the sound. The air trembled with power, dark and suffocating. He turned back to Arya, but she was gone. Only the scent of lavender and the faint shimmer of moonlight remained. The curse wasn't just inside the pack, it was inside her, and if Kael didn't find her before the next full moon, the darkness would claim them both. When the moon turned red that night, two hearts moved under the same sky, one searching for truth, the other running from it. Kael ran through the forest, his breath harsh, his wolf on edge. Every tree whispered her name. Every gust of wind carried her scent, lavender and sorrow. His claws scraped bark as he followed her trail deeper into the heart of the woods. The shadows here felt alive, pulsing with a strange rhythm that matched the beating of his heart. Then he saw it, a faint light flickering through the mist. Arya. She was kneeling beside a pool of black water, her hands trembling as she traced a glowing rune across its surface. The water hissed. The ground shivered. Arya. Kael's voice broke through the silence. She turned, startled, her eyes glowing silver, brighter than the moon itself. Don't come closer, she gasped. But Kael didn't stop. He reached her just as the rune exploded in light, throwing them both backward. When the glow faded, Kael looked around and froze. All the trees around them had turned to ash. The pool had vanished. Only one thing remained in the air, whispered a woman's voice, soft and cruel. You cannot save what belongs to me, Alpha. Kael's blood turned to ice. He knew that voiced it was the moon goddess. Back at the Silverfang fortress, Lyra stood in the sacred library, surrounded by ancient scrolls and moonlit symbols. Her hands shook as she flipped through a tattered journal, the personal record of the first Luna, written centuries ago. Words burned across the page in glowing ink. The cursed line shall return when the goddess's heart bleeds under a mortal's name. Lyra's heart pounded. The drawing below the text showed a mark, a black crescent moon over the heart. Arya's mark. She stumbled back, the book falling from her hands. No, she whispered. It can't be. Low drum beat begins, alternating between both storylines. While Kael struggled to keep Arya conscious, Lyra was uncovering the truth that could destroy them all. Arya's breathing was shallow. Kael held her, brushing hair from her face. Talk to me, Arya. What was that ritual? Her lips parted, voice weak. I tried to seal it again. The curse, the darkness. But she's waking. Kael frowned. Who? The goddess, Arya whispered. She's not what you think she is. The moon didn't bless us. Kael, she bound us. The first Alpha loved the goddess. When she refused to stay mortal, he cursed her children to never forget her, even through death. Lyra's voice trembled. She's not a healer, she breathed. She's the descendant of the goddess herself. Kael's eyes widened. The moonlight reflected in Arya's tears. Arya, what are you? She looked up at him, pain flickering in her eyes. I am what the goddess left behind when she fell in love with a wolf. Thunder rumbled. The ground shook violently. From the shadows, a figure emerged, tall, draped in black, eyes like molten silver. The same voice from before whispered through the storm, "Return my blood, Alpha, or lose your pack before dawn." Kael stepped in front of Arya, his wolf growling, fangs bared. "Over my dead body." The figure smiled. "That can be arranged." The goddess had returned, and the Alpha's greatest battle was with destiny itself. The moon bled red that night, and the forest, once alive with song, fell silent.